Good Monday morning, November 24th, a little after 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Michael Clark here with BAM Weather. We're going to talk about the updated December forecast thought process, what data has done over the weekend, what the idea is here going forward with the continued, talk about winter arriving, and it is. It's coming for some, maybe not for others in spots, but there's a lot of time on the table here, and there's a lot of potential on the table, in my opinion. And so, living and dying by individual model runs is it's something we'll never get people to stop doing. It's just the way that this industry works. But we can talk about what we believe to really be the outcome here. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, share it with a friend. Let's get right into it here as of Monday morning, the 24th. We've got some showers and thunderstorms working in across the deep south. There's going to be the potential for some stronger storms there today. A slight risk for some severe weather. And the main potential today is probably going to be the wind and hail, albeit tornadoes cannot be ruled out either. So nonetheless, a busy day across the deep south with the potential for some stronger thunderstorms. And even into tomorrow, tomorrow's severe weather outlook as well covers kind of the same spot with the potential for stronger thunderstorms. Some of those could be severe with some tornadoes and some hail. So just something to keep in mind down there. We'll watch that kind of our hot spot, if you will, for rain and thunderstorms down there to the deep south. Looking here at the rainfall forecast in particular would be pretty heavy. Again, if you remember my video about a week ago talking about how some of the deep south can stay pretty active with rainfall. You can see the forecast down here indicating just that as the system slides across the east. Okay, so looking into the next 7 days for rain in general, the first thing we notice, obviously, we'll pull this all the way out here, is we notice how active it is across Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, down there in the deep south, where some places the next 7 days could see more than 3 inches of rain. The winter focus part of this shifts it to the northern tier, basically kind of I-70 points north, the interior northeast, the upper Midwest. The first part of this snowfall forecast that you see here will focus primarily across the North Plains. This is a 3-day snowfall forecast from our Clarity forecast engine, which keep an eye on later this week. We're going to be running a huge sale to get access to Clarity. It's an incredible platform that does so much. But look at the swath of snow across the Dakotas into north central Minnesota, into northern Wisconsin. Look at that. That's a big old nasty snowfall forecast up there in far north Michigan and into northern Wisconsin as the Clipper system, or storm system, really moves through the northern portion of the country, the northern third really, here over the next few days. So rain to the south, snow to the north, and then attention will shift to focus this weekend for a bigger storm system. This is synoptic weather, by the way, synopticwx.com. We are working tirelessly to add to this, add tools, parameters, different modes and whatnot. So right now it's beta, it's free to sign up. But what's cool about this platform is it's fully interactive, and you can use it on any platform. It's very quick, it's very responsive, and it works. The mobile and the web work flawlessly with any application. It's not just dedicated to one particular device or type of device, if you will. So we're going to look at the 0Z European weather model, and we're going to target the weekend storm system. All right, what I'll do is I'll turn on the time box so you can see that. But you can see the storm system, this low pressure center, start to develop here as early as Friday night into Saturday morning. And you see this area of low pressure developing in the panhandles of Oklahoma, Texas. And what the low does is it kind of swings up and across the deep south and tries to maybe go north a little bit. This looks like one of those little panhandle hooker lows, if you will. And the interesting part about it is we're coming into a little bit of a banana high type setup. And what that means is that we have high pressure that's kind of like this around it. Okay, we got a big high here. We've got a big high on the east side. And so that's going to be forcing in Arctic air on the north side of the storm system. Your low's down here, and you're going to have a component of snow, of heavy snow too. but you're also going to have a component of rain and heavy rain, the potential for there to be thunderstorms with this as well. Now, again, this is Saturday night. You can see this low pressure center moving through portions of the deep south into western Tennessee, and now it's down there and getting into Alabama by Sunday morning. And again, Arctic high comes in behind it. Remember I talked about last week, this will primarily be absolutely a rain event for most people south and east of this line. All right, this is a rain event for sure, and then a heavy snow risk to the north and west. Reason being not much, if any, in the way of blocking up across the east coast and into Greenland. So we're not getting the ability to keep the Arctic air getting fed into that storm by any means. But again, the European is aggressive with heavy snow breaking out Friday night into Saturday morning. This is a fairly heavy snowfall forecast here based off this latest. This is the 0Z run of the European. And again, into Sunday morning, heavy snows breaking out. This particular run got pretty aggressive with snow totals here across the Midwest. And you can see the sharp delineation, the sharp cutoff. You just zoom in, look at the sharp cutoff in snow totals across Indianapolis, the I-70, the magical I-70 barrier that everybody thinks is a real deal. I mean, looking at this, it's tough to say that it's not I-70 that causes the difference between rain and snow, but that's what this certainly looks like. This is a very aggressive run. It's too aggressive with totals, but you get the idea of where it's trying to lay down the snowfall, okay, from this latest run. Now, the run that came in the overnight hours, the 6C run, was very similar, okay, and actually it was further south with the cold and the heavier snow suggestions. Very similar on timing here across Iowa, getting into Illinois, late Friday night into early Saturday morning. Snow would start as early as sunrise Saturday across Indiana, and it continues here very heavy in fashion. Again, because we have two high pressures, we have the polar vortex, a piece of it, the tropospheric polar vortex for sure. There's a cold lobe of air available near the Hudson Bay, and these two high pressure cells are going to allow for that cold air to absolutely intrude that storm and provide the potential for there to be a pretty big snowstorm, a pretty big winter storm that may surface from this. Now, 10-to-1 snowfall numbers at this distance. Again, a decent snow here. That's the European model. We'll show you the Icon weather model that doesn't go out quite far enough. Similar, if you will, in terms of trying to put snow down in that area in general. The GFS weather model, all right, here it is. It does not do anything close to like what the European or the Icon does. And then the Canadian model, similar, all right, that's the operational. There was an experimental version of this as well. It does not do much with that storm system in terms of allowing the cold to mix in. So we've got a long way to go with this. If we just look at a blend of models right now, and the idea here, safely you could say there'll be accumulating snow in the Ohio Valley this weekend, but we'll continue to kind of fine tune this as we get closer to this forecast. Looking at the change over the weekend, all right, week 1 and week 2, we added HDDs on both of these. The trends were even just 12 hours ago. We've added quite a bit here, especially from the EPS and the European models for week 2 HDDs. Whoops, sorry about that. And then you can see here the roll forwards versus even 7 days ago, a week ago for the current week 1. We've rolled forward 8 to 15 points colder. The models continue to struggle with longer term warmer biases, but nonetheless you see the roll forwards verifying a little bit cooler, just kind of something to keep in mind. We're going to look at the EPS here, the European, and again, here's the storm system coming through this weekend. You see it right here. All right, the big low comes through, and the storm follows it and brings in the potential here for a winter storm. But you can see what the eastern U.S. heights are doing. They're just blowing up. There's the tropospheric polar vortex. So the cold is there. It's available for tapping, and that's why you're seeing a snowstorm break out. But the eastern U.S. ridge, southeastern U.S. ridge, this is something that will continue to prove to be a problem until we get deeper into the MJO phase 8. And that's not going to be until mid-December. And even MJO 7, 8, and 1 continue to indicate southern, southeastern U.S. ridge risks here. Deeper into 8 is better, and we did just recently have a major SOI drop, which is good for this. I'll talk about it in a second. Nonetheless, this southeastern U.S. ridge and the southern ridge of this is going to continue to pose issues getting mega cold across the entire country. Because you can see even on day 15 on the European, it's cold in the northern half up into New England, but it's much warmer down to the south here. That's the operational European ensemble. Here's the AI version of this. It's done better. It's colder the further east you go, a little bit further south and east. It's done better with maintaining its colder suggestions here. So a little bit of a battle of who's going to be right out to December 8th and 9th. Well, again, as you get into MJO 8, you're going to allow the cold to be able to seep east. I think my main takeaway is we just have to continue to maintain the risk for this ridge in the southeast and up the east coast to cause problems in terms of being able to get sustained cold or big snowstorms, at least yet, or at least to this distance, okay? Nonetheless, something else that can help us with this is looking to our pattern over in East Asia. Okay, we see a big front here in the Korean islands and Japan. That's basically tonight. All right, the correlation to that is going to be a storm system about 6 to 10 days from now. Okay, bringing cold down. You see a little bit of warm up behind it, but another storm system follows right behind it. Okay, that's another potential system there in the second week of December. And then we'll go forward here, even out day 5, day 6, day 7. There's another front. These wave trains, if you will, are indications that we'll continue to add troughs and storm systems to come through the U.S. and help possibly keep the forecast bringing cold shots in, cold air intrusions. Again, just mentioning the southern and southeastern U.S. ridge is still a thing. But as we get deeper into MJO 8, which really looks to occur about the 15th or so of December, that will allow for, I think, that signal to mute some and us to get colder into the east, all right, and further south and east, the seepage of cold, if you will. I like the word seepage, right, with this particular pattern. It bleeds east as with time here. But you can see the GFS, the European and the Australian MJO weather models here, MJO forecasts, if you will, are all very similar. They're almost identical for the most part. And all have suggestions that possibly we would get into MJO phase 1 too as we get into January. But look at what all of them have. Some sort of muted higher height signal in the deep south. So all of them have it. There's suggestions of it. It's not that it can't get cold or it won't get cold or there won't be cold air. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying there's a risk there to keep those heights down like that in the south. All right. So it's one of those things where we just want to mention it and talk about it and move on from it. But 8 and 1 certainly allow the cold to carry east for the most part. Okay. But you can see it in the European ensembles and the weeklies. You can see it here. Here's week 2. Okay, this is a little bit of a change in the weekly. Here's week 3. You're still seeing the southern U.S. ridging. Okay, the tropospheric polar vortex is a little elongated. It's here. There's a supply for colder for air for snowstorms and winter storms. But as we get deeper into December, note the signal mutes a little bit. All the way out to the end of the run, you can see it's a muted look, strong North Pacific blocking, even some blocking perhaps in the higher latitudes. The TPV is still over the Hudson Bay for the most part. And it's not a pattern that's bad by any means. It's a pattern that I believe can deliver and deliver multiple potential winter storms, snowstorms as we go throughout the period between now and after the first week of January, really. But this is the December forecast right now from the European Weekly. Okay, and I just don't have a lot of disagreement with this. Might need to be a little bit warmer in the desert Southwest, maybe. I just don't really disagree a whole lot with this, with everything that I'm seeing. Okay, it's still colder than normal. Normal to colder than normal in December is cold, right? It's winter, so when you're below normal, you're colder than normal, right? Big SOI drop too. Went from a 38 down to a -1. The correlation for the SOI drop would be a weakening of the southeastern southern U.S. ridge, as we're swapping the forcing from La Nina forcing to El Nino forcing in the Southern Oscillation Index, which will help mute that signal getting out into that time frame and allow for potentially colder risks to develop, okay? And you can see that here in the analog set as you have looking at days post-SOI drops in La Ninas, okay? Look at what you see, though. 15 days out, big trough in the east. 16, look at what tries to always come back a little bit. Southern, southeastern U.S. ridge, okay? But we reinforce colder shots and possibly set up for a bigger colder shot about 20 days or 23 days-ish, if you will, after the drop. Well, if that drop occurs today, you're around December 15th through the 20th for another a big shot, a big storm, a big shot of cooler air based on the SOI analogs. The other thing we have going right now is the decline or the slowing down of the global winds. The negative angular momentum would continue to indicate that December can run colder. So perhaps the southeastern ridge is a problem the first 15 days. Maybe the last 15 days it's not. Okay, as some indicators would suggest, we may be able to get that to go away and bring the colder air east, okay? Nonetheless, this is a good idea of thought process. This is looking at a primarily Western Pacific oscillation-driven pattern, a primarily a negative WPO prominent pattern, if you will, without really a negative AO or NAO, a lot of 2013-ish vibes, okay? 2011 vibes. 88, 99, and 83 are some other years here too. But again, later into the month, you possibly bring this further east, but note the snow departure analogs. Okay, that continues to be a concern for me, at least in December, of that being a problem there. Okay, look at our overall December analog package. When we factor all these things in, the deeper we go into December, the more possible it can become to, there's our HDDs, 853, to bleed that colder air east, something to keep in mind. The overall snowfall departure analogs in these years are a little bit better up into New England and interior north and east, and they're good in the Midwest and the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley. But again, Mid-Atlantic, East Coast, Southeast, I think you're going to struggle to see true shots of big snow, at least early on, as we continue to progress forward. So that's a little bit of a thought process into the forecast the next few weeks. If you have questions, let us know. Subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you soon.